All right. So beginning of 2023, January 2023, and I had one of my first review meetings. I've had this couple for many, many years. And this question keeps coming up. So I thought I'd bring this up to you. What do I do with all this cash? Right? I have all this cash. I don't want to put it in the market. And what do I do with it? Now, as a financial professional, you might be saying, well, aren't you going to tell them to buy into the market because the prices are lower, and historically speaking, traditionally it should go up, and so they're buying in a lower market. We did have that conversation. However, my job is to push you a little bit outside your comfort zone, but not so much that you're taking on undue risk that doesn't fit with you, right? So we have that conversation, but if I feel that there's still some tension there, we go through some cash alternatives because they're available right now and they're in better form than they've ever been. And so essentially, what do you do with your cash? If you don't want to invest it, absolutely don't want to do that. What do you do with some cash? So here's three options that we went through with them. There might be more options that are available. There might be different options that are better suited for you, but here's the three we went through with them. And just keep this in mind. Now, none of them are keeping up with the current inflation rate. January 2023, we're around, I think, 6.5% to 7% on inflation. None of these are getting that. They're getting anywhere between 3% to about 4.5% for yield to maturity on some things. So just keep that in mind. But market is still volatile. And so if you don't want to put in the market because you're afraid it's going to go down when the market maybe resets again or goes through a volatile period, this is something that can help you get some rate that's a little bit more guaranteed and is just at least kind of trotting along and you see the value go up a little bit rather than going down, right? Okay, so actually there's four options. One is you could just leave it at the bank. Now, I'm not necessarily recommending that because for some reason, bank rates, now this is a general comment, bank rates are not necessarily going up. And I'm not sure why interest rates are up significantly, and yet the banks are still not giving us very much to be sitting in a savings or a checking account. It just depends on your bank, but that's something you should have a discussion with and take a look at if you're just planning on leaving it at the bank. Second option is essentially to do a CD. Now, most people are pretty familiar with CDs. It's a vehicle that you buy for a certain period of time, let's say a year. That's the most typical one. And they give you a guaranteed interest rate at the end of the year. So if you hold that money for a year with them, they'll give you whatever that interest rate is. I've heard anywhere from 3.5% to 5%, again, January 2023. So just depends on your bank, right? Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind. There are penalties if you need that money in 9 months and you're in a 1-year CD. Oftentimes you give up I think it's 3 months of interest. It just depends on the bank and what they have as their rule. The other thing to consider is that they give you a very short window to decide if you are going to continue with the CD once your CD is matured or if you're going to roll over. And it's usually about a week. So if you don't want that pressure, I would not do a CD. All right. Number two is US Treasuries. Now, US Treasuries is a security. Okay. US Treasuries are bonds. They're US bonds. They just have some guarantees attached in there. Like if you hold to maturity, you'll get your money back plus whatever fixed coupon rate that they've guaranteed on. And there's a chance to get a higher yield to maturity depending on how the bonds are doing. So a lot of our clients are looking at maybe 6 months, 9 months if they're doing something like that, mainly because they like that they can put them in their investments. So they can put it right in their brokerage account. They can put it right in their IRAs to replace some of the bonds that are currently held there, or maybe just some cash that they want to invest, but they don't want to necessarily put in the market. And the nice thing is it just goes to cash. So there's no must make a decision right this second within a week period. You'll just be sitting in cash in the account, and then we can make a decision based off of investment goals at that point, right? And see how the market's doing. So a lot of clients like that option. And so, it's still a security. So make sure you go through the risks and understand how they work before you do them. All right. And then the third option that a lot of people are taking into consideration is what's called a high yield savings account. Now, they're banks essentially. So they should have the FDIC insured. Double check that before you invest someplace. And a lot of times they're online banks. They're banks that don't necessarily have a brick and mortar. And what they do is they have a liquid bank account and you put your money in there and they provide an annual rate of return or interest rate, anywhere right now I'm seeing about 3 to 3.5% for them. Again, January 2023, those rates can change. They can go up, they can go down. But right now it's about, I would say 3.25 or so. Now, if you decide to pull your money out, obviously you're not going to get that interest rate anymore, but there's no penalties. They're not taking back interest that they've given you or anything like that. So they're fully liquid. So you are getting lower interest rate than if you do CD or US Treasury typically. However, it's a completely liquid vehicle, which a lot of people like because maybe they're holding their money there for buying a new house or some kind of emergency fund that they've got extra money in. Now, speaking of emergency fund, all of your money should not be going into these vehicles. You do need a plain old boring emergency fund. I ran into a situation with another client where she was trying to pull money out to take care of an issue that came up, right, as an emergency essentially. And we had to have that discussion again of we're not investing money that you need as an emergency fund. That buffer is really, really important. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with your cash. And if you have any questions or want to go through those options or see if there's other options that are better suited for you, give us a call. There's a lot of cash that people are sitting on and they don't know what to do with it. So we can help you. One Vision Retirement, your retirement in 2020 vision.